Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome back into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. What a fabulous day we had today here in South Carolina. I mean, you just can't beat the weather. It feels like Christmas to me with this kind of weather, so I hope it continues for another week or so. Hope you had a great day, and we thank you for being with us here tonight across the state on Sports Talk, your final word in sports every night across the state of South Carolina. 800-956-7266 is the number. Dial us up. We'll get to your calls. You better call us early because we are jam-packed. Once again, we have that conversion of football and basketball. Big basketball game Friday night, Clemson, USC, USC, Clemson. That's right. It's the rivalry week all over again. You got an entire week to build up to this game. We're going to hear from Brad Brownell at the bottom of this hour, live on the program, and Frank Martin, who we had on last week. We'll have some recorded comments from him today from his press conference. K-Mac was out at USC football practice, and he's got some news and notes from there, as well as some people that he talked to.
Yeah, not a lot of major news in terms of breaking stuff. They have everybody they believe eligible for the bowl game academically.
Well, nobody breaks anything on the Gamecocks anymore except Gamecock Anthem.
Yeah. Will Muschamp was not made available.
He was not made available
today, and I had some questions for him and how he was going to incorporate himself onto the staff. But no, apparently he's they're somewhere in Alabama. I guess he's recruiting in Alabama.
They may be going through the NCAA certification process.
Yeah,
with him
they
again.
said he was in Alabama, and I guess he's recruiting there. But it's the first time I've been around the team since Clemson, and you can't tell. The practices are closed, but you'll hear from Deke Adams. I was listening in a little bit to Grady Brown.
Does Deke think he's getting fired?
No. I mean, he's not. If he did, I don't think he would say it out loud. But he was asked if he's heard all this stuff, and and he gave the answer that you have to give. I just focus on doing my job. We don't pay attention to all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Grady Brown said he doesn't ride the roller coaster in life. He just does what controls what he can control. I asked Deke if it's come up on on the recruiting trail, how many fires has he had to put out, and he said you've always got to put out fires. You've always got to recruit till signing day. It's always hard. So they're giving you those standard responses, but and I think inside the building you kind of fortify yourself and you say, look, we're going to get through this. But the bottom line is, real or not, there's a bad perception out there, and you see it with kids that are even sticking with the Gamecocks or saying, with my commitment to South Carolina, or guys that are going other places, they've got to figure out some way to get everybody back on board. Whether it's just Steve Spurrier stepping up and taking 5 minutes to clarify everything, something's got to happen, I think. And I thought he might come over tonight. I really did. I saw him on the golf cart. And
sometimes things like that, Phil, only takes time.
Y'all got
he normally is pretty plugged in.
When you see him, you've got to sort of get your mic out there and indicate that you want to talk to him, and he'll come over.
Put it over there.
Works for me.
But he just,
Or get run on by his golf cart.
Maybe tomorrow.
Phone number here on Sports Talk is 800-956-7266. Grab a line. Get on board quickly. 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @sportstalksc. That's how you can communicate with us right away here on the program. Lots coming up. We're going to hear from Deke Adams in a little bit. Brad Brownell, Frank Martin as well. Recruiting too. Confirmed today for South Carolina recruiting that Marquavius Lewis is going to sign with South Carolina tomorrow afternoon. This is what he says he is going to do. Now, the defensive end
signing day.
That's the plan right now. He left them a little wiggle room in there. That's the plan right now. Lots can happen overnight.
But he said he's not talking to Auburn now, and he has still to be safe for South Carolina, which would be a big pickup for them, a big defensive end, 6'4", 270, who can rush the passer. In junior college this past season, he had over 11 sacks. He had 21 quarterback pressures. He had I backed that up. He had 21 tackles for loss, and he had 11 sacks and a good number of quarterback pressures. Mm-hmm. So he's a guy in junior college who could rush the passer. He's a little bit older, too, because he's 3 years removed from high school. So he's got 2 years to play, too. He originally enrolled at the junior college, and he went back home, then he went back. And so he does not have a redshirt year. He's got 2 years to play, too. So this is a guy that you plug in, bing, bang, boom, and let him do his thing.
Well, you need an older player to rush the pass in the SEC because older players are usually stronger. And since they don't call holding in the SEC, you got to be able to get away from the hold.
A pass rusher. I mean, and I agree. I don't know that you have to necessarily be old. Sometimes you can get a young guy in there that can't do anything but rush the pass. You say, just go chase the ball on third down. That's what Clowney did as a freshman. You see the guy at Texas A&M, you just told him to go chase the football a little bit. They didn't have anybody like that this year, young or old. So that'll be big. He tweeted today. I don't know if you saw this tweet, Corn, but he said a lot of people are decommitting, but they're going to regret it when they face us. And he said, so
Arden is a master of social media and recruiting. He says one thing and means another in his own head. So, before he committed to South Carolina, he publicly had them 5th on the list. All right. And that turned out to be nothing but a ploy. And now he's got it lined up where he's going to visit Georgia the last weekend, which will have Gamecock fans all tied up in knots because, that's your really it's Georgia and South Carolina. He's also going to visit LSU, but last time I talked to him, he said LSU wasn't with him.
Didn't Arden Key? I'm just trying to remember this because recruiting's like 5 years long now. Guys commit when they're decommitted,
right,
and recommitted. Right. So would he be the first guy to ever decommit from a school twice?
Probably not. I'm sure that's been done before, and I've run across it before.
Have you've run across
but
that?
I mean, this could be a 3-time decommit if he switches at the end of the day.
Well, here's the
because he decommitted, right, and then recommitted. He committed, decommitted, recommitted. Yeah,
so
okay,
it'd be a
two-time
decommit.
You'd be able to answer this question. Is it just that we can measure it better, or kids decommit, commit, decommit, commit, decommit before they had social media?
Right. I think so. I think the fact that everything is much more public now, it's like everything else. A lot of things seem to be more than they ever have been before, but it's largely because things are much more public.
People are paying attention. I really think the kids do it more now because more people are paying attention. I think 15 years ago when a kid made a commitment, it was a done deal for all intents and purposes. You didn't have a lot of guys wavering at the very end like you do now. All these people paying attention to it, combined with 17 and 18-year-old kids, people get excited.
I thought it was more fun when coaches hid players during the last.
Can't do that anymore.
Oh, can't do that
unless
anymore.
You do it well in advance. Gamecock fans, you should be embarrassed, though, really, as the so-called Gamecock Nation and your great support of your football team. You're about to get egg all over your face because what is it now? Like 800 tickets the Gamecocks have sold for their bowl game. Clemson sold just over 4,000 of their 9,000 for their bowl game. So at least they're going to get about half their tickets
well,
sold, if not
and
more.
there's buying them and giving them away to military too. I don't think Clemson fans are scooping them up.
Well, we haven't gotten to that part yet. I mean, that could happen. I mean,
Clemson put out a release saying they're doing that yesterday.
Like, you think that's included in these ticket sales numbers?
I would imagine so. They're telling people buy them, and I don't think it's egg on fans' face when they say, you know what, we're not going to spend our hard-earned money around the holidays, the end of the year, to go watch
When
a
your
6-6. No,
it's so easy to be a fan and supportive when you're winning 10 and 11 games.
You're talking about finances.
But
I don't think that makes you a bad fan.
20 years ago, the Gamecocks would have sold 25,000 tickets to go to a bowl game at 6-6. Yeah, because they never went to a bowl game. 25. Okay. 25. Yeah.
Right. Well,
they would.
I don't know that any fan base has ever bought 25,000 tickets to the Independence
Shreveport
Bowl.
Is not that bad. Quit talking about Shreveport. Okay?
I just think it's a cheap shot on fans to say you're not a good fan.
I don't think it
for
is.
Not spending money and going.
I think it's embarrassing for an SEC team like South Carolina to have sold less than 1,000 tickets almost 2 weeks into their bowl sales. That's embarrassing. There's no other way to cut it.
I don't think it's an indictment on the fans. I think it's reality.
It's a very embarrassing point to make for South Carolina.
I don't think
they better pick it up.
And you know what? And
because it's going to be talked about. It's going to be on the television. It's negative. I don't care about Miami. I'm not worried about Miami. They'll sell what they sell. They don't have a fan following anyway. They're a transit school. Aren't they a commuter school? They even have dorms?
In this day and age, Miami doesn't sell 700 tickets to home games. In this day and age, though, Corn, with the economy.
Come on, K-Mag.
People don't go to home games anymore.
Well, I'm going to get to that
it's
now.
Like this old thing. Like, you're living in a 1990s mindset. In 2014, on December 27th, it's a very a big time bowl
Christmas.
Game. It will be hard.
Christmas.
Yeah, right after
People
Christmas.
used to complain about it being before Christmas. Okay, this is after Christmas.
2 days after Christmas.
Here's the one thing.
These teams didn't go to bowl games 25 years ago.
Here's the one thing I didn't understand. I thought it was almost the last 5 or 6 years that it was a tacit rule that any team that went to a bowl game would come out of the Western Division because of geography. And then they picked South Carolina this year. But South Carolina –
because the Milk Bowl was looking to pick South Carolina, but then when the Outback Bowl took Auburn instead of Georgia, that messed up everything.
Yeah, well, I think the fans speak the only way
blame
they can.
The Outback Bowl, which has screwed USC a couple of times now.
I think fans speak the only way they can, Corn.
They could have gone to Charlotte, but because remember a couple of years ago it came down to South Carolina and Florida for the Outback Bowl. They took Florida and South Carolina stayed home
because a bunch of Florida boosters are on the Outback Bowl committee. I mean, the bowl games again. You're talking about exhibition games.
It's not good. So
I don't blame people. I mean, for the people that want to go,
get out and support your team.
When every dollar counts, and you've got stuff going on around the holidays, it's not an indictment on you being a fan. I mean, they're not saying I'm never going to be a Gamecock fan anymore. They're saying, look, my dollars are important. I don't think it's a wise investment for me to go watch it. 2 6-6 teams play.
A different
2
way.
days after Christmas.
Let's look at it a different way. You want to look at it a different way to make you feel better?
I just think it's embarrassing.
Okay, let me give you.
I will not change my opinion.
Let me give you a different way to think about this, Corn. I have gone broke for buying bowl tickets to follow the 11-2 team the last 3 years. I got to save some money. I can't go out the street.
Now, speaking of attendance, John Solomon, CBSSports.com, big story today that major college football home attendance this season dipped to its lowest average in 14 years. The average attendance for FBS crowds for home games, 43,483. That's down 4% from 2013, the lowest since 2000. South Carolina had Clemson had a 2% drop, averaging 80,176. USC a 1% drop, averaging 81,381. So I think that's kind of the beginning of the erosion of the home attendance as well.
Big screens in the backyard, tailgate that way.
I mean, he's a phenomenal player. I mean, kid can he's fast, he's physical. I mean, he make cuts. I mean, he's just a dynamic player.
Okay, we're back. A very busy Tuesday night edition of Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Let's jump to USC football practice. K-Mac, you were out there today and talked with some players and with some coaches.
Yeah, let's start with Deke Adams. He's been in the headlines a lot. The Gamecock defense has been in the headlines a lot. First time we chatted with him since Clemson, and his task in this bowl game, stopping Duke Johnson, one of the best running backs in the country.
I mean, he's a phenomenal player. I mean, kid can he's fast, he's physical. I mean, he make cuts on the dime. I mean, he's just a dynamic player. I mean, it's just we've got to maintain our gaps up front and give our linebackers a chance to run, and we just got to tackle.
How's the attitude been with these guys at practice? I mean, they could have hung their heads over the disappointments this year. I mean, what have they been like out there?
Well, I said it a long time ago. I think somebody asked me the same question a while back, and I said, the guys, they've showed up and they worked hard, and everybody's disappointed with some of the outcome and the things that's happened this year. But these kids are coming out here working and trying to get better every day.
How's the defensive coaching staff deal with it? So much speculation about y'all on the outside. Do you tune it out? How do you deal with that?
I don't deal with it. I come out here every day to coach football and coach these kids, and what's being said outside, it doesn't bother me. We're going to do our jobs, and we're all professionals, and we're just going to stay focused, and we're going to work. Our task at hand right now is to get ready for Duke Johnson in Miami, and that's what we're doing.
At what point in this job does that develop? Does that trait develop? Is it harder for younger coaches once you've done it a while? Does that just come with the territory?
Well, I mean, that's the business. I mean, you look at it now, and that's the business, and I think part of the business is just some of the salaries of some of the guys that are getting jobs now is just, I mean, it's just that type of business. But it is what it is. We know what it is when we get in it, and I wouldn't rather be doing anything right now than coaching football.
Has any of the talk that's kind of floated out there, if you guys had to put out some fires, recruiting and out and about? I mean, you're out there on the front lines with high school coaches.
You have to do that in every year. I mean, it doesn't matter what's being said about anybody. You have to recruit to the very end, because you go to sleep at night and you think you got everything done, and you didn't talk to a kid or you didn't say something to a kid. Next thing you know, get up in the morning and something's changed. So none of that. We just got to keep working, and we got to keep recruiting hard and stay on the kids to the very end.
All right, Deke Adams. One other note from USC: Gerald Turner, reserve fullback out of Goose Creek, a former Shrine Bowler, has left the football team. SID Steve Fink announcing that today at practice. Outside of that, nobody has left. I guess there's still some academic things to be determined here with some players, but that's the one departure since the end of the regular season. Gerald Turner has left the USC football team. I imagine to transfer somewhere else. All right, so there you go. From the players, K-Mac, about their attitude about this bowl game. Do they seem into it, getting ready?
I mean, it's hard to get a feel for that just talking to them after one practice and looking at them. But you can sense the overall malaise around USC football right now. There's just not a lot of excitement and buzz. They're going to a lesser bowl game. They're facing a big name opponent, but I just think there's like kind of I don't think it's as bad as everybody thinks it is out there, but I do think it needs to be addressed by Steve Spurrier sooner rather than later. It's just festering.
the feel of the Clemson USC football week as we've got all week to get ready for the Clemson USC basketball game in Columbia on Friday night at 7 o'clock. Both teams should be well prepared and well rested and ready to go. Let's welcome in Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell to Sports Talk. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing well. Hope I can stay with you. I'm out here in the back rows doing some recruiting. So
now, let me be the first to tell you, look out for the deer, all right? Because I met one on my way back from the football game a few weeks ago. Make sure you keep your eyes open for that.
There you go. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No. Well, I hope you're doing well. First of all, it's been an interesting start to your season. I mean, this has been one big roller coaster ride for you.
Yeah, it has. We really got off to a slow start. Just didn't play as well as we needed to in some ways. And I didn't think our defense was very good early in the season. And just one of those situations where we had some leads in games and let them get away and didn't play well against some teams, and then kind of turned it around, had some good wins against LSU, Arkansas, and Auburn here recently. But hopefully we're starting to play a little bit better and have got a little bit of a feel now for our team now that we're still adjusting a little bit to the loss of KJ McDaniel to the NBA. I think it took a little bit out of our sails in a couple situations where we were late in games and still looking for a playmaker and just the lack of energy from not having KJ in the lineup every day, I think was a little bit of a problem for us, especially defensively early on.
Well, you're certainly sharing the basketball. I mean, all 5 starters are averaging in double figures thus far. So, you've got balance all through your starting lineup. Defenses can't really afford to back away from anybody.
Well, I think that's true. We have a good solid starting 5. I think good balance, from our point to our 5-man, and had different games where different guys have kind of been the leading scorer. I think it's one of those situations as a coach, you like that in that there's some variety. There's some different guys that can go to in different games, different matchups. You try to isolate different people. Wish you had that go-to guy, the guy that averaged 18 points a game, like a KJ McDaniel, that you kind of just play through. And so we haven't had that. We've had to kind of figure it out as we've gone through each game. But I do like our starters. I think they've played very well for us, and hopefully we'll continue.
Coach, you said as the season developed, you wanted to see more of a personality as far as taking control with what he could do from DeMarcus Harrison. Has he given you the minutes and the concentration that you needed from him?
Well, you know what? DeMarcus has played well. He's coming off a really good game against Auburn. I think he's, becoming a very solid scorer for us, a guy that we need to continue to make shots and to be aggressive on the offensive end. The interesting thing for my team is my 2 starting guards, DeMarcus Harrison and Rod Hall, are both great kids, good hard workers, but they're both very low-key guys. They're just very they flatline sometimes. It takes a lot to get a rise out of them. And so every once in a while we can flatline a little bit as a team and not have the energy that we always need. Both those guys are good players. They're experienced. They're very seasoned. They've been in a lot of big games. They both had big games. They're coming off a big game. But they're both guys that are pretty laid back. And every once in a while, that can be a little bit of a problem. We got to make sure that their motors are running at a high level in every battle that we go in. And certainly we'll need that Friday against a good South Carolina team.
You're not shooting the ball particularly well as a team outside of the 3-point line, right, at about 29%. Is that an area of your team you expect will get better, or are you going to have to live with that kind of percentage all season?
No, I think we're a better shooting team than our stats show. I really do. I think we've got some guys that can shoot the ball better than they have. It's just been one of those years where we're just not in a very good spot right now. We're kind of in a little bit of a rut with some of our shooting. We've got guys like Jordan Roper that are good shooters and can make threes that just haven't shot the ball very well this year so far. Jerron Blossom game is a better shooter than his stats show. I think DeMarcus is shooting reasonably well. Rod is a good shooter who doesn't shoot.
Coach, we're losing you. If you're still with us, your cell just dropped on us, it sounds like. So hopefully you can hear us and reconnect, doggone it. He's back there somewhere on the back roads, probably doing some recruiting. So, State Man, you might want to drop that line and he'll reconnect
see if he's
with
back.
us. Yeah, we'll see if he's back with us because we have more to ask of
yeah.
Coach. So hopefully we'll be back up with Coach Brownell here momentarily. I think this is going to be an excellent matchup between the two teams, especially the point guard battle, as we talked about last night. I think Rod Hall, Dwayne Notice, or Ty Johnson, whenever the case may be. I think that's going to be excellent one-on-one matchup between those two. You think about Thornwell for South Carolina matching up with DeMarcus Harrison, perhaps. There's good matchups throughout the two lineups of these two teams. The thing about Clemson I wanted to ask Coach about was his depth, because after his top five, the playing time really drops off considerably, I guess. I mean, you got Ajuk was getting about 14 minutes a game. Roper is averaging 13 minutes a game. Rook's 10. So I guess that's maybe about right for guys coming off the bench, which would mean they're going about 8 deep. And I guess Josh Smith counts in there as well for a perimeter guy getting some time.
Well, I was about to say, when we talk about point guards, still a youngster, but more and more when you see Marcus Stroman on the floor, he's a freshman that's not spectacular, but he seems to always pass at the right moment that leads directly to a score for some reason. And we've heard Coach Martin talk about him even when after the recruiting period was over and he had signed with South Carolina, that he seems to just make everybody around him better. And you got to add him into the point guard equation. I think the key for Clemson, though, I like what I see out of Grantham. He's got a lot of energy. He's not as athletic as McDaniels, but he's still great at timing for blocking shots and scoring inside, and can shoot from mid-range. So I think he will be a key for Clemson. But as always, they say you cannot always pack your offense, but you can pack your defense. So if Clemson is successful in this basketball game Friday, it'll be because of their defense shutting down South Carolina offensively.
Now, I think Clemson's strength inside with just has played better this year, but I think Noko's the better player. Henry gets in foul trouble very easily. Carrera is coming off his concussion. Thursday, I hope he'll be cleared for practice, but he hasn't played in 3 weeks. How much can you expect from him? So I think Clemson, with its inside players, with Noko and Blossom Game and Smith in there, I think they probably have the edge inside, and I think that's going to be to their advantage, but we'll see if it pays off. We have not reconnected with Coach, so let's jump to the phone lines for a moment and go to BB in Saluda. Bulldog Bert. Yes, everybody knows who BB is. He's no Brad Brownell. He's also BB. We go from one BB to another BB who I don't know if he has a jump shot or not. BB, you ever slam dunk a basketball?
Well, I have ate dinner with Brad Brownell before at the IPTAY meeting 2 years ago at Lexington with a big IPTAY donor that invited me to sit up there with him so I could get the inside scoop, but that wasn't too good for us. But the countdown clock is on for Spur to leave South Carolina next year.
Have they got a countdown clock? Did they take the ones? They just took the ones from Clemson and put it in the Spurrier office?
Well, I hope there's one up in the Georgia office after what he's been doing to us down through the years. But I hate to see Carolina falling apart recruiting-wise because a lot of people are backing out. Knowing, and why would a coach go out and say, well, I'm going to retire into it? I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, I think Josh probably caught him in one of those emotional moments because it was the Monday after the Clemson game, and they were still reeling in the wake of that defeat and hearing all the negativity. And and Josh did a good interview with him, Josh Kendall of the State, and Spurrier. I don't know if he just
But as I said before, it's an instant excuse. I don't think it's the real reason. Players not going to tell you the real reason.
You mean as far as the decommits?
Yes.
And they're not coming apart. I mean, they still have a very good class holding at this particular time. Thank you, BB.
We had a real good week. Last week, and we've been real sharp Saturday. We were off.
Well, we enjoyed talking to Coach Brownell while we had him. We'll hear more from him, I'm sure, later in the week. Frank Martin met with the media today to preview the Clemson game and also update some stuff on his team. Here he is as he talks about getting back to work after an exam break, getting his guys back on the practice court and getting ready for Clemson.
We had a real good week. Last week, and we've been real sharp Saturday. We were off Sunday. Real sharp yesterday, and today we start more game prep for Clemson for the past, whatever it's been, 7 days. Everything has been kind of keep in tune with what we do, keep our cardiovascularly, stay in shape. A lot of repetition, but very low stress with obvious reasons with finals going on. But we ramped it up Saturday. Guys are great. Ramped it up yesterday. They were great. And today we start more game prep.
Frank, just what you've seen from Clemson on TV or in early film, it's one of Brad's defenses. What do they do that makes it so hard to crack?
They got old guys. They got guys that have been in his system. It's think about our team a year from now. Think about the improvements we've made from this time last year to this time this year, individually and as a team. And that's fine. That's the like we as coaches, we've talked a lot. We don't have little young sophomores anymore. The amount of minutes these guys have played, we're older than the average sophomore. So that's what you see from Brad. You see, you always see it, right? Whether it was Wright State or Wilmington or the guys Brad's worked for in his career. Their teams don't make mistakes. It's just not. They don't do that. They're very detailed, very connected. Rod Hall starting to make perimeter shots, which makes him that much more difficult. Last year, he really didn't take perimeter shots, and he spent the whole game driving the ball in the paint, and we couldn't keep him out of the paint. Now he's making perimeter shots, so it's an added dimension. But he's got a young freshman. Obviously, KJ McDaniels is the second leading rookie scorer in the NBA. So I think that shows the dynamic that he brought to a college game last year. If I remember correctly, he also triple-double against us last year. Now they've got a freshman that I watched him in high school. He shoots the cover off the basketball in Grantham. So, and everyone else is a year older. So they're good. They're a good, rock-solid team. Obviously, everybody wants to pick at, well, they lost to this team, lost to that team. You see the teams that beat them, the kind of years they're having. They're pretty darn good basketball teams, and then they've gone on and beaten everyone they've played in our league. So we're the last hope for the SEC when it comes to Clemson.
Speaking of that, I mean, do you feel like you're playing for the conference as well as your program on Friday?
Oh, you always do that. You must play for your school first, and then whatever affiliation you have next. It's anytime you play intra-conference games, it's or interconference. I don't know. My Dade County Public School education kind of got me right there for a second. Thank you. I thought intra is within. Inter is takes. I'm a little slow sometimes, but anytime you play those kind of games, you're playing for your school first and foremost, but you're also representing your conference, and we take pride in that. Like I said last week or the week before, the SEC has been real good to South Carolina, and we have to do a good job of representing our conference.
Frank, has this been kind of a different sort of rivalry for you in the sense that when you were at Kansas State, it was a conference game all the time? You were playing Kansas, I guess, 2, maybe 3 times every year, and it meant, a bunch in the Big 12. So is this a little bit different?
It is, but I also understand because both school and the way that divorce went down, and I didn't understand that a couple years ago. I got a better grasp about all that right now.
There you go, Frank Martin. He went on to talk about his freshman players and T. Marcus Blanton and his hip injury, which appears to be quite serious and could be something that takes him a long time to recover from. Shamik Shepard coming off the knee. And, of course, as you mentioned, Marcus Stroman, he's very excited about the way he's played so far this season. So we're looking forward to what could be a heck of a basketball game. Clemson has dominated the basketball series in recent years, and I think it's a toss-up game, to be honest with you. We'll be back in a moment. All right, let's give you the recruiting report tonight. As I mentioned earlier, defensive end Marquavius Lewis, Hutchinson Junior College in Kansas, told us today that he will follow through on his long-standing commitment to USC and sign with the Gamecocks 4 o'clock tomorrow at his high school, Greenwood High School. He said, quote, "That's what it's looking like. Yes, sir." been hot on his trail, but Lewis said he hasn't heard much from the Tigers since the end of last week. USC was in to see Lewis and his family Saturday, and he's remained in touch with the Gamecocks. He's regarded nationally as the #1 defensive end prospect in junior college. 63 tackles, 20.5 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, and 21 quarterback hurries. 2 years to play 2. Defensive lineman Ulrich Jones of Butler Junior College, Kansas, will be signing tomorrow at Oxford High School in Alabama, his high school. That'll be at 6 o'clock our time. It's either USC or Maryland. Keep an eye on the website tonight. We'll try and have a further update on him. Defensive back Mook Reynolds of Greensboro, North Carolina, plans to announce his final decision 6 o'clock in Greensboro on Thursday. He's been committed to Virginia Tech, but Clemson has been recruiting him since offering him. Linebacker Keon Joyner of Havelock, North Carolina, one of the top prospects in the country for 2016. USC Clemson among his many offers. Deke Adams from USC, Mike Reed from Clemson were in to see him during the contact period this month. LSU, Auburn, Florida were among the others in to see him, according to Havelock assistant coach Caleb King. Joyner went to North Carolina and East Carolina for games this season. He remains wide open. However, Brad Lowing, if he's at Florida or wherever he is going to be for next season, will have a real good shot to get him because he's from Havelock and coach there, has very strong ties there. Any player coming out of Havelock, Brad Lowing will have an excellent chance to get wherever he has. Receiver Michael Bowman of Havelock, who had legal problems that led to USC withdrawing his scholarship offer, did not play this season, but he did return to school, and he is working towards graduation and hoping to be able to move on to college. Former Carvers Bay Shrine Bowl defensive lineman Naquez Pringle just completed his freshman season at Itawamba Junior College, Mississippi. In 9 games, he had 19 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Cincinnati, Kentucky, Missouri are showing interest, and he plans to send film to USC and Clemson in the next 2 weeks. He said his head coach has talked to several schools that plan to offer him during spring practice. And junior place kicker Alex Barber of Cumming, Georgia, made an unofficial visit to Clemson for the Georgia State game. Clemson and Auburn are his favorites. He has an offer from Army. He said Clemson remains interested but wants to see him before talking about an offer. This season, he had field goals of 56 and 52 yards, and he hit 6 of 8 attempts. All right, there you go. K-Mac, were you a place kicker by chance in football?
Must not.
You were not. I just kind of strike me as the place kicking type in football.
Strike me as a water boy type, clipboard holder type.
I was not.
Yeah,
thank you. It is the top of the hour break.
Plug the hole type.
I was a guard, offensive guard. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-66 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Tuesday night. We've got more coming up from USC and Clemson football. Also, hopefully, we'll dial up Ben Freeman, coach of the Shrine Bowl team. And I think that Mick Mixon, voice of the Panthers, will join us tonight. He was busy last night with his band, Mick and the Mickettes. Is that the name of his band? What's the name of his band?
If you hadn't asked me, I could have told you.
It's Mick and the something.
Give me a minute.
Mick and the Mouses. Anyway,
that's not it.
A couple of other recruiting notes I didn't get to. Wide receiver Christian Owens, and I know that mice is the plural of mouse. I just thought mouses sounded better.
Well,
Mick and the Mouses. Wide receiver Christian Owens of Griffin, Georgia, signed his financial aid agreement with USC today. He's a mid-year transfer. By signing the papers, USC coaches are now able to have unlimited contact with him and talk publicly about him. And in basketball, Deronte Jenkins, remember him, 6'6", football, basketball standout at Lake Marion, who left and transferred to West Oaks, Florida. He's been reclassified as a junior, and Clemson offered him today for basketball. So apparently he is an up-and-comer.
How tall is he?
For the 2016 class. He's about 6'6". He's a big guard. Yeah. All right, quickly to the phones we go once again. John in Hilton Head, how are you? And welcome to Sports Talk.
Hello, Phil. I've talked to you fellows a couple of times in the past, mainly about Tar Heel basketball. I was, years and years ago when freshmen could not play varsity basketball, I walked on and played little freshman basketball there at Chapel Hill. But what I'm calling about tonight is it's so good to hear we've got a Carolina-Clemson game coming up here. That's really meaningful, I think, for the first time in maybe several years. I've followed Brad Brownell since I've been living in the state. I have a great respect for him, and I think Frank Martin is the man that's going to really make South Carolina competitive in the Southeastern Conference, and maybe even a little bit beyond just being competitive. I certainly hope so. I'm looking forward to the game and Friday night, and I appreciate the role that you're putting it on your show this week. I think it's good. It means something to the state.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we'd love for basketball to take a higher profile from the standpoint of South Carolina and Clemson. I don't mean to be overlooking any of the other programs. Well, great year so far.
Yes.
Charleston Southern, very competitive. Coastal's having a great year. Citadel looks improved. Newberry is ranked nationally in Division II in the top 25. A lot of teams around our state having very good seasons. Upstate's having a very good year. See, I'm going to miss somebody as I start naming teams.
They're still feeling their way out. But College of Charleston trying to get their sea legs going. They got a good, young, dynamic coach in Earl Grant who came from Brunell's staff at Clemson. And, of course, they're still adjusting to the CAA.
And South Carolina's making strides, and Brad is trying to take Clemson to that next level. Unfortunately for him, the ACC is just so tough. Back in a moment. All right, we're back. Sports Talk on a Tuesday night from downtown Columbia, Main Street. Sports Talk, your sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes, and once again behind the bulletproof glass in the dark. He likes to sit in the dark now. We're seeing the dark side of the steak man. Turns
scary.
the lights off.
Bad things.
Hiding in the shadows. The steak man, Graham Pope.
Kills the reflection.
Is that what it does?
That's why we're in the dark.
Takes out the reflection. 800-956-7266 is our number. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney again coming up in just a couple of minutes. Out to a 10-2 lead on Greensboro, playing at the Greensboro Coliseum tonight. North Carolina doesn't really need a taste of the Greensboro Coliseum for the ACC tournament.
Home game for UNC Greensboro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the ACC teams, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of them try to schedule a game in there to get a feel for the place for the tournament later on. But North Carolina doesn't really need that. Back to the phones we go. Billy in Greenville, welcome into Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
I'm doing fine. A two-part question I want to ask you. First, like the Muschamp thing, did they ever approach him, and was the head coaching thing? Did he want that, or was that just something that was on social media?
I mean, I'll tell you what we know, and by we I mean me, and then I share it, of course, with the guys here and share it with folks on over the air. But this is what we said back when that we knew from our information was going on when this was in developing stages, and that is there were contacts between his people and South Carolina's people in some form or fashion. Now, and Spurrier even admitted to Josh Kendall that he had talked to Muschamp a couple of times. He said we had some information of a definite day in which conversations had taken place. Now, we're not privy to what the conversations were about, but we do know they took place. Now, Spurrier did come out and say at his bowl news conference he hadn't offered the job to Muschamp. He said he had heard that Muschamp had been offered by Auburn and been offered by Texas A&M, and he said we haven't offered any job to anybody. I mean, Spurrier's in a tough situation. He's in a tough position there because he hasn't fired anybody. There technically is no job to be offered to anybody. So you know, folks might have gotten the cart ahead of the horse here just a little bit. There could be openings later on after the bowl game. We'll wait and see what happens. But as of right now, there are none. But there were conversations to some degree. Maybe it was with Jimmy Sexton. You know, since he represents both coaches, maybe Jimmy Sexton was negotiating with himself. You know, he might have been talking to himself. Well, Jimmy, what do you think about this for real? Well, Steve, what do you think about this? You know, he could have been talking to himself, trying to come up with his own mega deal between the two.
ATM and Auburn. He got Auburn to jack up the price.
But, you know, from what we understand now, and this is what we said on the show, the idea of a head coach in waiting was not going to happen at South Carolina. It was not something that Ray Tanner wanted. So that was never going to be part of any deal. If anything had ever gotten that close with Muschamp, that was not going to be part of any deal. But I think at the end of the day, what I also learned is that his wife had a big say in this, and the fact that they had lived at Auburn a couple of times previously, and I think she has strong ties to the area. She might even be from the area as far as I know. That was a factor too, the family considerations and all that. So those are the things that we know. Everything else that you might read and hear from other people, that's fine and dandy. But, I mean, that's the stuff that we can tell you that we know.
Yeah, and I want to say this. If you notice Spurrier and the way he's done things, I think he knows that, you know, that we're the kind of school that there are a lot of good coaches that are maybe Division II, when Division I or Division II. You know, like somebody like a Manga or somebody like an Elliott, who I think are pretty good coaches. I mean, I think with USC, there are a lot of good defensive coaches maybe on that level, and maybe he's looking in that way.
Well, you know, one of the things that fans have to realize, there's not a finite, I guess, gathering of coaching talent anywhere. I myself follow a lot of teams, and I thought Mike Bellotti was crazy for going to New Hampshire to get a coach who's never been on the West Coast to coach his offense, and that coach happened to be Chip Kelly, who's now in the National Football League. Who would have thought this guy from New Hampshire would come all the way to the West Coast, crank up this Oregon offense, and then suddenly find himself in the NFL? So there's coaches out there with a lot of talent. You just have to beat the bushes to find them. Don't always have to be the name coach.
Talent is the big thing.
Yes.
And, just look at any coaching situation. How smart a coach does Eric Spoelstra seem to be today? When he had LeBron James and all that talent, boy, he was a great coach. Now all of a sudden, the Miami Heat, they got a losing record.
And
How smart is he?
Now Steve Kerr is a great coach because
look
he
at
got all
Steve
that
Kerr,
stuff
yeah.
and goes.
So, I mean, coach, I'm not taking away from coaching. Great coaching can make a difference. Boy, if you got the players, and that's why South Carolina defensively the last 3 years prior to this year, those coaches looked fairly smart because they had some terrific NFL-level talent to work with. Billy Napier looked like a very good offensive coordinator at Clemson for a year.
Gordon C.J. Spiller.
Absolutely. And Kyle Parker and doing his thing. I mean, he had a pretty good offense. And where is he now? Yeah. Is he still at Alabama? No, he went to Colorado State.
Who's that?
Billy Napier.
He's bounced around everywhere. I don't know where he is now.
Is that right?
He might be with McElwain at Florida. I don't know if he went there. If he's going to. I'm not sure how that worked out for him, but
Speaking of that, we didn't mention what the coaching carousel, Mississippi State's defensive coordinator, Jeff Collins leaves for the Florida job, and that opens up. That means Durden, the defensive coordinator under Will Muschamp, is a free agent now. It's understanding North Carolina is chasing him.
Thanks for your phone call. Appreciate it. 800-956-7266. No, Billy Napier is not the wide receivers coach at Alabama.
That's what, according to 247 Sports, that's what he is.
Is that up to date? Is that right, K-Mac? He's a wide receivers coach at Alabama? Billy Napier?
Maybe so.
I don't remember seeing his.
That's what 247 Sports is telling me, yes, sir.
Florida State for like a day, and then he went to Alabama, and then he went to Colorado State. I mean, he really has had a lot of credit. I mean, he's a hard worker, Furman guy.
University of Alabama. I'm looking at his bio right here. University of Alabama.
So,
I did not realize he was on that staff still. I thought he had left and had gone to Colorado State. Let's see. Let's see. Billy Napier begins his second season as the Alabama wide receivers coach. He joined the Crimson Tide staff after serving as assistant head coach and quarterbacks coach at Colorado State in 2012. For Jim McElwain. And then he came back to Alabama. So I did not realize that. I haven't seen his name mentioned in recruiting circles or anything. Alabama recruiting. So I just missed that. Okay, well, thank you, Steak Man. You are on the cutting edge. That's what makes you Steak Man. All right, not any of the other talents you might have in the kitchen, behind the charcoal grill and things of that nature.
I know you're a big fan of star ratings, and they're actually rating coaches now. And according to 247 Sports, he's the 47th best assistant coach as far as.
Oh my God!
So, there you go. You want more numbers? There you go.
47th best assistant
You talked about assistant coaches.
That's great.
One of the things they were talking about, because they'd like to bring up anything that causes controversy, is that they were saying recently, if you notice Alabama games, it seems that Lane Kiffin is getting more camera time than the head coach.
Oh, what does that mean?
I don't know. But they show him on the sideline more than they show.
I just want to go back to South Carolina here for a moment. And again, those members of the defensive coaching staff, they're like dead men walking. I mean, everybody that follows South Carolina, including the nut jobs on the message boards on the websites, I mean, they've got these guys fired. And it's just a matter of, Spurrier making the move. But you know what? I mean, Spurrier might end up doing nothing at all. What if they come out and have a great defensive performance against Miami and play like their hair's on fire and do a terrific job?
Just like Paul Johnson was allowed to clean up the mess that was at Georgia Tech. And he ended up getting him in the championship game and winning his third
with the
ACC
same
coach
defensive
of the year.
coordinator.
Exactly.
So again, as we said, sometimes the best moves you make are the ones that you don't make. Dabo Swinney coming up in a moment. we'll hear from the Tigers coming up in just a couple of minutes here on Sports Talk 800-956-7266 is our phone number. And let's get back to your phone calls. We'll go to, Cletus in Rock Hill. Cletus, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Man, we're doing great. It's good to hear from you again.
Well, that's good. I just want to say keep the dog because he's good behind that bulletproof door.
You hear the dog again,
and,
huh?
Also, yes. And Austin Staley and her women, we got to give them more recognition. Number one in the country. They are killing people right now.
Well, yeah, they are. I mean, they're having a great year to this point. Great win at Duke. They got a little road trip here to coming up after the turn of the year. They'll play Connecticut, and then they'll dive into their SEC slate. So, yeah, they are having a terrific year. The key thing for her is not have this team peak too soon. It's nice being number one. Doesn't mean anything in basketball. You got to have it when it comes to March. And unfortunately, of course, they did have a nice little run last year. The SEC tournament, they haven't gotten where they want to be, which is a championship. This team, if it stays healthy, there's no reason why it can't win out all the way to the very end. The Final Four for women came back as where this year?
Tampa Bay.
Oh, you knew this.
Of course.
Oh, man.
I've been to one women's basketball game this season, which is more than anybody else in this room. And I can tell you, I enjoyed.
The thing about it is they have size if they want to go inside. Duke neutralized their size, but they had some speed on the perimeter to save that game. They can mix and match players. They're a difficult draw for anybody. The only thing they don't have right now is savvy. And that's one of the things why I think she wanted to play Duke and wanted UConn. Because they got some tricks up their sleeves to try to stop South Carolina. It'd be interesting to see what she learns when they take on Gino Auriemma's crew up, and I think they're going to play in Stores.
Cletus, you coming in to watch the USC women play a game or two?
I won't get to make it, but I'm pulling for them all the way.
All right, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
He's
Appreciate
saving
your
his money
call.
for Shreveport.
It's nice to have a women's basketball call here on Sports Talk. I mean, they should be recognized.
Well, yeah, they're the number one team in the
K-Mac,
country.
you should do more coverage.
Like I said,
the USC women.
I've been to a game.
State man
I
agrees.
actually watched the Duke game when they played at Duke and watched that one on
That
the
was an
television.
incredible finish.
Great finish.
Mhm.
I mean, they do what great teams do. Everybody appreciates greatness. I mean, I don't care what the sport is. When people see something that's spectacular, they're impressed. And you watch what Don Staley's done at South Carolina, and it's very impressive. And it lets you know that we talked about coaching and what it means. Like if you have the right person in there, and Don Staley's done it the right way. She's entrenched herself into the South Carolina and Columbia community.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's done it the right way. And that's, I was one of the guys that said this is a lot of money to pay a women's basketball coach. At one point, she was making more than Ray Tanner was with the baseball program. But Eric Hyman saw something, and he was spot on with that hire. It was a great hire by Eric Hyman.
Tar Heels are up on Greensboro 27-6 with about 7 minutes to play in the first half. Be back in a moment. right, coming up, we're going to hear from AP first-team All-American Vic Beasley. By the way, USC's A.J. Cann was named second-team AP All-American. The Dabo Swinney stuff, not really related to the bowl prep. He talked almost all the comments from him are about the young players, talking about the young offensive linemen, the red shirt linebackers, and all that kind of stuff. So not really focused today, Swinney was, with the questions on bowl practice, bowl preparation. So we're going to move away from him, hear from Vic Beasley and Stephon Anthony coming up. But let's go to George in Spartanburg before we get to them. Hi, George. Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hey, Phil. George Levinas from Spartanburg. I had two questions for you, and I hope I'm probably maybe being redundant, but you're not on the air up here, of course, in Spartanburg anymore, and my computers have been out for a while. And so what I wanted to know was, number one, in terms of the coaching staff at Carolina, what have you been hearing in terms of any possible changes? And number two, my friend Rob Zimmerman told me earlier today that he had found out that we'd had as many as 5 decommitments from the class coming up in 2015. And what I was wondering was, who are they and where have they changed their minds to, if you know that right offhand?
Well, first of all, don't ever begin a conversation with me by saying, if I know that. Of course I know that.
Oh, of course. I'm aware of that. You're the best.
I just have to remind you from time to time.
He also knows what modesty is and being humble.
False modesty. I thrive at false modesty. All right. The 5, that's right. There have been 5 decommitments for the Gamecocks. Devon Durant was the first one. He's going to Arizona State. Jair Alexander, wide receiver DB, he's going to Louisville. Let's see. Paris Palmer. I'm getting to
Forget
him.
Paris.
Paris Palmer, offensive lineman. He's going to Penn State. Let's see here. Josie Milton. Josie Milton.
Oh, I know everything. I'm just
Josie Milton is going to
something?
TCU. Offensive lineman going to TCU. And the 5th one was
Austin Clark.
Austin Clark is going to Virginia Tech. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I knew about that one. So, boy, that's 3 offensive linemen.
Yeah, that hurts. The class is still good, but they only have 2 offensive linemen right now. And good luck finding a
Palmer. They had penciled him in as a starter next year.
That's why they put it in pencil.
Good point, with a big eraser. So that's where it stands. But they're going to pick up Marquavius Lewis here. They might get Ulrich Jones, big junior college defensive tackle. He could sign with them tomorrow. They just got a JUCO linebacker. So, they're putting bodies into the
they're definitely going a lot of JUCO. I mean,
who is it?
I guess it makes sense. So Spurrier says he's going to be around 2 or 3 more years. How long do junior college players stick around? 2 or 3 years. I mean, that's essentially what you have to do if you have a coach.
If you have immediate needs, you go out and look.
Usually they say if you're, recruiting multiple junior college players, it's because you've made mistakes other places.
Kansas State has made a living on players.
Exactly.
Of course, they live out there with the JUCOs in Kansas. So
who is the linebacker that they picked up? You said they picked up a linebacker?
Yeah, a kid named Hawkins, a junior college linebacker out of he's from Baltimore. He went to a junior college in California, and he committed on Sunday.
Oh, okay. All right. So I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay. And are they still I guess we're full at wide receiver. I hope we don't start losing wide receivers because I know we've got 4 of those, if I'm not mistaken. So the offensive line, that concerns me.
They're fine everywhere else except the offensive line, and there's reason to be concerned there because of those losses. Yeah, they've only got 2 offensive linemen in the class.
What about the coaching staff? If I know stuff has been there, here and there. I've heard some stuff on ESPN, but I know Spurs said he'll be back next year, and he believes he'll be back for the following year. Is there anything going on with the assistant coaching staff that you're aware of?
Well, there's a great deal of speculation. Now that Will Muschamp is settled in at Auburn, that's kind of calmed down a little bit, but there's still people who believe that after the bowl game, he's going to make some changes on his defensive staff.
Yeah, I heard that on ESPN the other night. They were predicting bowl games, and that's where that first came up. The guy said, well, after the bowl game, he'll probably make some changes. And didn't mention anything, but I just kind of thought that something might happen there. Are you going to be up here for the Shrine Bowl this week?
Yes, I'll be up there for the game. The game on Saturday. I'm not sure if I'm going to get up during the week or not, but I'll definitely be there for the game.
Well, we look forward to having a good game because, I know I told you this several years ago, but I was on the original committee up here, Team Spartanburg, that helped bring this thing to Wofford College. And so they do a really good job, and, really looking forward to it. And hopefully we could put a licking on the Sandlapper. I mean, not on the Sandlappers, on the Tar Heels.
Well, see if you can twist some arms up there and get some people to work with us so we can do the show up there during the week of the Shrine Bowl. The Marriott, where they host everything, not willing to work with us to help us do the show up there. So pull some strings up there. You're a very powerful man. Do something.
Well, I'll try. The chairman of the committee, I saw him several months ago, and he asked me if I could help work with the committee. But I had 3 surgeries this summer, and one on my back, and the others were cataract surgeries. But and so I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting around. I'm getting around a lot better now than I was this summer. But I'll see if I can put in a call for the future. I didn't realize, because I know you had broadcast from there before, and
did it
I thought
for
maybe
years.
you might have been up there this week.
No, we did it for several years. Had a great time doing that, and I miss not being up there. But nobody will work with you. Unfortunately, can't get any help from the Shriners, and can't get any help from the hotel. They went under new ownership a few years ago, and they just haven't been willing to work with us to accommodate us. And I'm not saying the Shrine Bowl needs Sports Talk to help it, but it doesn't hurt to have a statewide Sports Talk show there and putting information out. Before we get to Mick Mixon, I do want to get to Vic Beasley, named first team All-American by the Associated Press, which to me, that's the greatest All-American team. You can have your ESPNs and your CBS Sportses and your Rivals and your 24/7s and your 365s and your 12 months, whatever name you want to come up with. The AP All-American team is the standard for All-American teams and has been for decades. So if you make that team, that's a great honor. He made first team, USC's A.J. King second team. And here's Vic responding to a question about what it feels like to get these kind of accolades.
A lot of hard work and dedication put in over the years, and just working hard with my teammates and them pushing me each and every day.
Do you get excited about any of that? Like when somebody tells you for the first time, are you like, do you smile at all about stuff like that?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, I feel like amongst this team, it's really expected. A lot of guys expect it from me, and they expect me to be in those All-American categories.
It's not a big deal at all, too.
Not really. I mean, I know it's a great honor, but I feel like it's expected amongst this team and amongst the players that we got at the defensive end position.
Listen, I know you're a team guy, but let's be honest. Whose name are you on that team? Yours or someone else's?
I mean, I like to have mine, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, something you look at you can tell your grandkids one day, hey, I was an AP All-America.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Take that with me for years to come.
Isn't it not a bigger deal to you, for you, because you came here, you had a cup of coffee at tight end and linebacker and then defensive end, and you were back up 2 years ago full time? Isn't that to see where you started? Isn't it a big deal?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, a lot of work ethic and a lot of hard work over the years, and a lot of faith and commitment, and not giving up on my ability. And a lot of people believing in me, and me believing in myself.
How was Houston and Orlando?
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed Orlando and the red carpet, so it was interesting.
Was it fun to get Scooby and the other guys?
Yeah, it was fun seeing the other finalists.
All right, Vic Beasley, Clemson All-American defensive end, getting the ultimate All-American award, the AP first team. As far as the backfield, the quarterback, Marcus Mariota, the running backs, Melvin Gordon and Tevin Coleman, and your receivers, Amari Cooper, Rashard Higgins from Colorado State.
No Connor from Pittsburgh?
Nope. a little while there, the Carolina Panthers were in first place in the NFC South, but the New Orleans Saints changed that last night with their win in Chicago. Boy, the Bears look terrible. They just look terrible. And, Cutler, he looks totally lost. And the thing is, he's got a head coach who's a quarterback guru and an offensive-minded head coach. And I'd give the ball to Matt Forte if I were the Bears. To me, Matt Forte is one of the top running backs in the NFL.
Trestman had been with San Francisco. Used to be an assistant with the Panthers.
Yeah.
And then went to Canadian Football League and then back to the NFL with Chicago.
Well, we didn't get Mick last night because he had a gig, I think, last night. Is that right? Mickey and the Jets perform. What is it? Oh, I'm sorry. It's the Franklin Street Band. Does that run anywhere near that African-American social?
Careful.
No, wait a second now. I started the band Break Wind and Fire back in the mid 90s, and we were a good band, but we didn't get that many gigs. I just don't know why.
Uh-huh. And so
now I have the Franklin Street Band.
Yeah, and where'd you perform last night?
Corn, last night we were at the stadium here. We played prior to Panther Talk. It's our annual holiday extravaganza. We raised money and awareness for Classroom Central, school supplies, free store for teachers in Mecklenburg County, and man, we had a great crowd, a lot of player guests, and it was a heck of a thing, man. I wish you guys could have been here.
Oh, man. And you do bar mitzvahs and weddings and things of that nature?
Absolutely. House warming, house cooling, defensive thesis, parties, just backyard barbecue, it doesn't matter. State dinners, we've played it all.
Now, you're on the drums, right?
That is true. I do not sing a note, although I know the words to a great many songs. My wife just tells me, just write them down and hand them to me, and I'll sing.
So the wife sings?
Dawn, my wife Dawn, you can see the beautiful woman to whom I'm married if you go to our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/The Franklin Street Band. And Donnie's the lead singer and the sun around which this band solar system orbits. And I'm just the drummer.
I'm sure you outkicked your coverage when it came to getting the wife. All right, let's get to the Panthers. So 2 to go, and you're still very much in the hunt. What's the mood around the building today?
I don't know, Corn. I guess we're technically in the hunt. I heard you and the guys talking about Chicago, and they did not do the Panthers any favors last night in looking like they'd never really even practiced against the Saints team. So the Panthers got to win out. We need a little help from Atlanta to beat the Saints, and then who knows? I mean, we could go to Atlanta the last game of the season if we beat Cleveland, and if the Saints lose with kind of a winner-take-all duel with Atlanta, that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah.
I know coaches always want to win, get to the playoffs, but Mickey, is there some quiet thinking in the room? We really need help at offensive line and receiver. The record is not that good. If we can just hold on to our draft picks and keep our position, because once you make the playoffs, you shift positions, don't you? Move down in the pecking order. Is that kind of murmuring going on at all?
Not a word of it. And if you wanted to have your key card around here not work the next day, the best way to get that done would be to say that and murmur it. You hang a banner, you try to put a banner up, NFC South champions, even if you only had won 6 games. Nobody would care years from now that this was maybe the worst division in the history of football. You want to get to the playoffs, because once you get in, like in the NCAA basketball tournament, anything can happen. You might get hot.
And you'll be the first team to win 2 consecutive NFC South division titles. It's never done.
See, there you go. I know we'll take it every time, even though it would hurt us in the draft. It'd be pain we'd love to have.
All right, look, I'm checking out the Facebook page. Did you guys play in Kenan Stadium?
We did. We played the 4th of July fireworks celebration in 2012 before a crowd of about 29,000 people. That was great, but the next week we played a gig in High Point for about 300 people, and we were looking around going, this is terrible. Where is everybody? We're used to stadium shows.
Well, they've got the induction ceremonies upcoming. They just announced the newest members to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I didn't hear this time around for the Franklin Street Band, but who knows? Maybe one day.
Well, if Chicago's not in yet, then it's not much hope for Franklin Street or for Break Wind and Fire.
Break Wind and Fire. That's great. Hey, maybe you'll take your seat one day next to Ringo inside the Hall of Fame.
Shoot, Corn. my Hall of Fame is just knowing you, man, and being on your show every week. I appreciate what you guys do for us.
You got it, my man. Have a great week, and good luck this week. We'll talk to you next Monday night on the regularly scheduled time slot for our meeting with Mick. Check it out on Facebook, the Franklin Street Band, and you see Mick and the wife and his fellow bandmates. Back in a moment.
I guess first of all, we haven't really talked to you since the South Carolina.
They made a judgment call, and I can't do nothing about it now. I wouldn't know about it.
All right, just a moment, some comments from Clemson linebacker Stephon Anthony, South Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance, a sponsor here on Sports Talk. Make sure for all your insurance needs, you give the good folks at South Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance a call all across the state of South Carolina. Stephon Anthony, who's got to sit out the first half of the bowl game for a bad call by the officials, but yet he has to pay the consequences for that, and he'll sit out the first half. He talked to the media today after practice.
I guess first of all, we haven't really talked to you since the South Carolina game.
Correct.
Talk about what went through your mind after you hit Dylan Thompson and the flag came out, all of that.
Oh, man, I guess I got a little angry about it, of course, but I mean, you know what I'm saying, refs made a call, they made a judgment call, and I can't do nothing about it now. So we're going to prepare the team as well and get ready to play.
If you had to do that over again, you still do the same thing?
Probably will. Probably will.
You ever been kicked out of a game?
Oh, no, that's my first one. That was the first one. It was, like I said, it surprised the heck out of me, but you got to live with it. Make decisions in life.
You think the game's getting a little too soft? There's a couple of questionable calls in the NFL this weekend. Quarterbacks get hit. Do you think things are just kind of getting out of hand with the quarterbacks and the way everybody wants to protect them?
I think they're just trying to do their best to protect the quarterback and make sure they're trying to get them to stay in the game. The quarterback is so vital to a team, and they're trying to do their best to protect them.
If you come back and looked at it, and do you understand yet why you got tossed out?
I still don't understand. I've seen it a million times since then, and I still don't get it.
It's got to be frustrating, though. As a defensive guy, that you guys feel like you can't tell anybody.
Oh man, it definitely gets frustrating sometimes, man. But we do our best to enjoy the game and keep flying around the hill.
Because we've always heard that you're a coach, you don't play for the district.
Right. His message pretty much was, bad call, we're gonna live with it. Judgment call, and we're gonna move on to the next thing.
Has Robert Smith been able to give you any advice because he got to sit out a half?
He said, you just like me now. So he said, that's what you get. So he was just kind of picking with me, joking around with me about it.
All right, Clemson linebacker Stephon Anthony. All right, a few other notes to pass along from Clemson. Tight end Jordan Leggett was banged up at practice today, carted off to the training room. Sweeney at the time did not know the extent of the injury, did not think it was serious. Tyrone Crowder also banged up at the end of practice. Sweeney did not say if it was anything to worry about or not. NASCAR and Sprint going their separate ways. Sprint announcing it's informed NASCAR it will not extend the sponsorship of the Sprint Cup Series after the current agreement expires at the end of the 2016 season. Furman football coach Bruce Fowler announced today that T.J. Hall has been named the new director of football operations. He was football video coordinator and assistant director of operations this past season, and he succeeds Jordan Soros, who recently accepted a position on the Clemson staff. All right, final thoughts, K-Mac?
Presbyterian 34-3 over Sanford at the half.
And the College of Charleston's about to play Charlotte. So,
all right.
Good luck, Cougs.
Have a great night, everybody. More great stuff here tomorrow night on Sports Talk. We'll see you then.